'Tis the season, so we from Radioverse would like to do a very special episode. Gather around the fireplace, whether gas, electric, the television, or authentic. We'll tell you a story of Christmas and a little red cap.
As the static fades and the voices fill the speakers, the road you're travelling, the room you're sitting in, it'll start to twist and turn, becoming something beyond ordinary, something beyond this world. Join us as we travel beyond the stars, deep underground, or in the innermost depths of the human mind. You just tuned into the Radioverse.
Once upon a snowy Christmas Eve, a young woman sat and wondered, alone, on a bench, Polaris, her only comfort, as she held a lone little red cap. There was snow aplenty and a Christmas tree standing stories tall, adorned and glowing. It should be a magical season, but she was left wondering.
Where did everyone go? When did the Christmas music go on repeat months before its time? Remixed and dashed, cut and diced to rhythms and beats that it never should have. Halloween stayed in its corner, fighting off the shoppers and the intruders. Knife-wielding maniacs have a loyalty to that cold October sky that even the most festive and eager can't seem to drive off.
Thanksgiving is lost, it seems to all but few. A month away from Christmas, but the malls are open. The shops are waiting, with sales and whistles to drive people completely insane. Where turkey and stuffing used to take its corner, family and friends getting together to be thankful that everyone is here for another year. People spend the day planning for Black Friday instead, where to shop and what to buy.
And through the month of December, that young woman stood in lines, been pushed into confined spaces, argued with and at times threatened. And now she sat, alone, enjoying the lights and a little red cap. All the lights were off in the houses around this park, beaming with brilliance. A spectacle lost or forgotten.
A peculiar thing happened while clutching that little red cap. No, folks, she didn't start to cry. No talking snowman. Santa did not fly down from the sky. She remembered something, a wonderful time and a wonderful memory, lost to the ins and outs of life. The frustration and exhaustion we all deal with. When she was a little girl, much smaller, with a bigger smile on her face, her parents tuck her here. Every year around the same beautiful tree, people would sing and laugh, talk and exchange, not gifts, but moments, life.
And then it hit her. If everyone forgot what Christmas was really about, then she should remind them. She got up and put the little red cap on her head. Humming a little tune, she placed her hand on the tree and simply said, "Just you wait." And with the skies so bright and luminous, and the snow so crisp and white, The young woman laughed a jolly laugh that if anyone would have watched her scene, they'd gladly chalk it up to some sort of madness, or maybe too much eggnog.
And so she ran, knocking on every door of every unlit house. One by one, the lights came on and the doors opened, and as she tried to explain that it was the season to sing and be close, the doors were slammed, people yelled and complained. The lights of the Christmas tree flickered as the reflection of the red and blue lights. She sat in the back seat and watched the tree go by, her little red cap again in her hands.
At the station, she barked and she pleaded, "It's the Christmas season!" No matter how much she talked or seemed to say, the men in blue just laughed away. All but one gathered around at this frantic young girl. He wanted no part in their taunts and jaunts and cheers. He drove that girl home after the charges were quickly dismissed and simply said, "Have a happy holiday." He went to pull away but noticed she did not go home, so only strayed, standing at that tree, her hand pressed against its bark, holding a little red cap, hopeful eyes and a hopeful gleam.
The cop had to leave, although he didn't forget the way she looked in that moment. Like she belonged at the top of the tree, instead of mourning it at the bottom. When the young woman looked down, she noticed someone else was there, an old woman piled up in blankets and bundles, sleeping in the snow. She almost gave out a shout. The old woman blended so well into the scene. Instead, the young woman tapped her on the arm. The old woman only swatted back. She wanted to be left alone. The young woman looked at the tree and, still believing, put on her little red cap.
Back at the station, the cop heard the laughter and heard the jokes. They were still laughing about the mad Christmas caller as they began to name her. And then he did something he hadn't before. He left work early, not sure what he would find or why he was so drawn. Before he knew it, he was off, driving back to that tree to see whether or not that mad Christmas caller was still there.
The old woman stood and yelled at the young woman everything that's wrong with this season, from the cold to the people to the lies and rampant materialism. The young woman stood protective of her tree, of her memory, only stood and smiled, while the old woman barked her frustration. When she was done, she expected the young woman to leave, to run. Instead, she held out her arms for the old woman to hug. "'Tis the season," the young woman said, "to forget the bad and think of the good. And as long as this tree keeps shining, we'll always have a reason."
This was too much for the old woman, who tripped over her bag full of possessions. Junk that no one else needed, no one else wanted. She saw that hug, that embrace as something evil, something to be feared. She screamed out, lashing at the young woman, who never moved and never swayed, until a man walked up behind her, dressed in blue. He went to yell at the old woman to protect the young one, only for the young woman to take both their hands, and she told them to look at the tree.
Now you can imagine this poor cop, who didn't know what to do or say. The scene was starting to look more like a possible homicide to be. And yet, the young woman's resolve was stronger than his. He looked at the tree. He always passed it, more than a quick glance. It was a beautiful tree, lit up wonderfully. But up close, while his breath was visible and the snow reflected the glinting lights, he saw something else. He saw the stars to the sky. He saw the sun and the moon. Every color vibrant and visible, silently sparkling, not shouting or demanding attention, just merely existing.
The old woman began to cry. The cop wondered why, or maybe if he should take a few steps back and expect the worst. But when he looked, he saw the old woman gripping the young woman's hand, looking straight up at the lights, tears slowly running down her cheeks. The young woman smiled and quietly said, "We forget to stop more than ever. We forget to love one another. This tree just stands, not asking or telling, just shining for us all to watch." The cop couldn't say a word, he was too lost. But he felt the young woman's grip as she softly began to sing.
When she began to sing, her little red cap with a poof ball hung off the side of her face. The cop looked around as the old woman joined in the song. Completely overwhelmed by the moment, he joined in as well. They sang a Christmas song around a Christmas tree, ignoring the snow, ignoring the chilling breeze. After a moment, Gary felt something touch his other hand. Lo and behold, another hand. All around the Christmas tree, the dark houses began to light up, and people came out. Were they really that loud?
And yet they came. First a few, who must have heard, some bringing instruments, some bringing food and drinks. All around the Christmas tree, they sang and played, swaying together hand in hand, neighbours, families, friends, strangers. For one moment, for one purpose. Forgetting that the same people called the cops on her, forgetting that the old woman threatened her, forgetting that the cop had taken her to the station. This young woman beamed and sang her heart out.
That was enough, and that was all she needed. The night went on and kept going. Snow started falling from the sky as people held barbecues and fires to stay warm, within the shade of the Christmas tree. On the eve before Christmas, it didn't matter who they were and where they came from, what they believed and how they lived. Under that star that burned brightly at the top of the tree, they enjoyed the season, the moment that brings everyone together, that ties us all forever. Not a whisper, not a breeze, but a roaring gale of laughter and singing that echoed throughout the trees. More and more people came, and more people sang.
Until the cops were called and the news van unpacked, calling an event and something that stands alone in the spirit of it all. The young woman, still donning the little red cap, was with the cop and the old woman, laughing and talking. When questioned, she only said she just got here. She said they should put down the cameras and unwind, carol and laugh, join the rest of us. After all, it's almost Christmas.
And they did. The songs went on entirely too long, until all the fires finally extinguished, and children eagerly woke up groggy parents. The Christmas tree, even in the bright sunlit sky, sparkled like a star that fell from above. The young woman stood there the next day and set the little red cap down at the base of the tree, smiling and singing softly. After all, there's no reason the love has to end. Christmas is only for a day, but the spirit and intention to give to each other, it doesn't have to end. It shouldn't end.
The old woman was seen coming out of a family's house, dressed in something warm, holding a tin full of food. She waved to the young woman, who waved back eagerly. When the young woman turned around, leaving the little red cap in the snow, she saw the cop, who offered her a lift. She did have somewhere to go, even if she didn't have anyone waiting for her at home. After all, it was Christmas, and she didn't have to spend it alone.
Thank you for listening to our lovely Christmas special. I want to reach out and thank my cast, my crew, and all of our listeners. Without you, my stories and dreams never have come to fruition. I encourage everyone this season to give and help anyone you can. Christmas for me has never been a religious day, but a day that we celebrate each other and what we can give to the world. Have a happy holiday. And we'll be back on New Year's for a special mini episode.
A Little Red Cap was written and directed by Justin Morton. Produced by Sasha Bloor. Edited by Justin Morton, Sasha Bloor, and E.S. Henry, with music and sound effects from Epidemic Sound. Theme by Ryan Smollick and Lucas Dorsey. Voiced by Sasha Bloor. Starring E.S. Henry, Justin Morton, Sasha Bloor, S.H. Cooper, Morty W.K., Gary Scales, Chris Datoli, Evie H., Megan Taylor, and yours truly, Matt Raftus.